previously on We Accept Each Other.
We always think that we are the defining or deciding factor.
The first extreme, you can always see those that always like the spotlight one, you know.
I don't eat dinner. Anyways, you know what I mean? Yeah.
Then suddenly someone come up with what name?
The frog.
The frog.
Because he always complain like he very tired then do all this. Then do counseling
And then Messiah complex.
Let me just clarify something.
Okay.
Because you can laumit everything, you know.
I can't remember.
One,
The thing is, you mentioned that you are not so in tune with Messiah complex because you're afraid of rejection and disappointment.
Yes.
Feel on which, that one?
The one
No,
that you
I'm just thinking if that's the solution for Messiah complex.
Or to be more afraid of disappointments.
Yeah.
Trust me, that's
Definitely not.
No, I would say it's a gauge. If you ask me, have I seen anyone that has pure intentions about running things or being in leadership positions and all that? Let's talk about that. That I can see from the intention of this person is not here to claim anything but this person is here just to facilitate. Or the objective here is not whether the spotlight is on me. The objective here in a church context is the spotlight on Christ or in His kingdom. And that to me is the greatest, indication that you have a right heart in this, whatever you are trying to do. Because you are able to do things that people will know. You don't even need to tell anyone. And you just do it because it is supposed to be done. And you never need to mention it, then okay. I believe certain things that we do, we have that. But I'm just saying this person or this whoever it is I've seen, I would say most of the time it's like this. I think the hard part of being a Christian is that a young upcoming minister, or the hard part is how can you stay in shadow when you need and be the comfort when you also need the tool. Not being the spotlight or being the the signature dish for the church.
Okay.
Yeah. Because we are trained to give testimonies, you know.
Yep.
The keyword is train.
Yep.
We are trained to give testimonies, you know. And that I don't think is very helpful when you have this kind of complex. That's what I think. What do you think?
So is Messiah complex bad thing?
Of course.
It's not a helpful thing.
It's not helpful at all.
So when I considered it, right, when I pondered about it, right, actually, a potential person will have Messiah complex maybe because of a leadership style or character style of that person.
Yeah, of course.
Okay.
I also can say that Hitler has a Messiah complex. This is his character.
His character maybe can
So, what are you telling me now?
Maybe can push him to the extreme. Ultimately, he can be like the only savior to save the situation.
No, the thing why we're doing this podcast, I think, is we are going to talk about there are always situations where you're not even given an option. Like if let's say you are the only, like you're the prime minister of USA, you're the one holding certain decision-making keys and roles. People really depend on you. And you have that responsibility. How do you make sure you still carry out that responsibility without falling into this temptation of having this Messiah complex overpower you? That's the thing that we're talking about tonight.
That's why.
Okay.
That's why it's more important to acknowledge this when you are in positions of power or in certain roles in church. And because it's so easy to sweep under the floor and hide it.
Because if you mention like always being in the shadow, it's not right. Like Alex mentioned, sometimes when you need to be upfront, you need to be upfront. When you can be in the shadow, you can be in the shadow.
And
that's the balance that we're going to find tonight.
Yeah, exactly.
I want to chime in on this one because I found I have an issue when I purposely tackle my Messiah complex. In the past many years, when I know that because I have high charisma person, I might slowly get attention and people will push me to do something on the spot or put me on the stage and so on.
Yeah, because you like to show off.
Maybe I also enjoy that.
Yeah, of course you enjoy that.
So then I started to tackle this. I would try to pull back myself. Like for what they said in the beginning, for example, I will put out all the roles, but when I'm trying to think very hard, my face will change. When I think seriously, my face will change. So whenever they suggest something or propose some idea, I will just very dark face, and will start thinking. So that's why they think I thought I would have reaction on their suggestion.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
If you say so, yes,
but
of
okay,
course.
to come back to my point, right?
Yeah,
when
what's the
I'm
point?
trying to tackle it, right, I will try to be very careful on the things that I say or volunteer myself to be in that position. So in the past many years, I did not put myself on the stage anymore, especially in Ignite.
There's two things I want to clarify with you first.
Okay.
Based on my point of view, first of all, you've been mentioning about being influential and charismatic. That is from their SC personality test. High I people, they are more appreciated if they are being appreciated in a big group of people. They feel more appreciated. Doesn't necessarily mean they are more. Only they have Messiah complex. Those who are high S or those that love a one-to-one interaction could also have a Messiah complex, because Messiah complex here we are talking about the tendency to be a hero in a certain context or a certain situation.
And the definition is that everything hinges on you. You
Yes,
think
yes.
that everything
Yes.
hinges on you. The thing will fail because you do not do anything or do not do certain things or you're not there.
So when we talk about influential, that one has a certain weightage, because if you're a person that loves influence, or what we should think, we should use the word popularity there. That's why you find it easier to identify for if you have a Messiah complex, but it doesn't necessarily mean that way. Those who do not have that traits or personality, those who like to be behind the stage or in the shadows, sometimes also have a Messiah complex.
Yeah,
Just that they don't like it being public.
yeah.
But end of the day, after they do it behind the scene, they still feel that they're the hero, or they still feel that they're the only one who can do it.
Yeah.
That is also a Messiah complex. No, I think, like what Alex mentioned, we have been talking for 45 minutes. We haven't really talked about in a conclusive way why a person would be subjected to Messiah complex. Because if you do not know why, and to every person, they will have different why that leads to the Messiah complex. If we need to know, then we drill to each why as much as we can. Then we will be able to expound on actually what we could do for it.
What happened a place or an organization or a team full of Messiah complex person?
In a team
What's-
where
what's-
everyone wants to gain the center focus, self-gratifying kind of Messiah complex, yes, then that team will have problem. Like you see all the while those boy bands where somehow they just split apart or become solo artists. Because of that, they want that attention on them. But if just now, like we mentioned, the second group of Messiah complex where it is because of responsibility, therefore they thought they are the only one that can save a situation. Then in that team, if everyone is that category, as long as the leader has good delegation, every single person has clear scope, and they focus on their scope to think that their scope will save the whole thing, then I think the whole event will be successful. Everyone will be very responsible for their thing. Okay. No, the thing about Messiah complex is, if let's say you're not the main character or the main person doing that event, you're joining as a sub, and you have a Messiah complex, the only struggle that I can think of the chef right now is that person, when the event has run, might have a thought that if they were the center, it would have been more successful. That is the only thing.
But
And
the
that
more
is
the
the
person-
Or if it's very successful, the person will not be able to take it because it's not them.
Yes.
Then they will leave the team.
So that's, if you ask me, the first time gathering all of them, I don't think it's a problem. It's whether this team will still work together for
Or
the second
we're
round.
talking about sustainable team
Yes.
in a sense.
Can be a temporary team lah.
Yeah, of course, it can be a
Yes,
temporary
yes.
team. Look at Civil War.
Again, if you ask me, I don't find people with Messiah complex hard to love, to be very honest.
You easy to love me or not?
And I don't find it,
easy to love me or not?
you are hard to love not because of Messiah complex.
It's your face. It's a face problem.
It gets frustrating sometimes when he tries to retreat and stuff like that. But then, if you ask me, the bigger problem would be
learn
that
from you.
individual that has Messiah complex, their inner struggle. That would be the harder thing, if you ask me.
The Sifu is here.
Oh. Cheers. That's all I can say.
Where gone? Okay. Anyway.
That would be the key thing I would say lah. The person with a Messiah complex is always an inner struggle within themselves.
I think it's not just you struggling, people around you are also struggling.
Yeah.
Because,
That's the point for those Messiah complex,
okay,
right?
I have to say, sometimes people with Messiah complex is very charismatic. I have to admit it, because you need to have certain abilities, so only you're able to sustain this complex in a sense. I would say to fit into it.
Why we come back to, okay, we have mentioned about the potential of Messiah complex in a certain situation. Then how can we adapt it or not adapt it, face it, or move that forward?
I think okay.
Not in particular in situation, or not in the relationship or in the relationship, just overall.
Yeah. I think a very good, and I think the only way is to think of yourself lesser. I don't mean that think of yourself less mean look down on yourself, look yourself smaller. Just that don't think about yourself all the time. Put that focus on the objective or the goals that you're trying to achieve.
Okay, I want to weigh in. If you are the first type that really like the fame, the attention, the spotlight, and you are chasing after it for your life, then I think the only solution is, for you to realize that at the end of the day, like all the superstars like Jim Carrey and all those, they say that once they're in the spotlight, they realize what they were chasing were meaningless, And for you to come to that realization, without that realization, I don't think anything could be done. And that one, only the Lord Jesus can save you.
Or you become really famous and popular, then you understand.
But doesn't mean
I hope you success all the time.
Yeah, it doesn't mean ambition is wrong, right?
No.
No one said
the first
is
type
wrong.
that really just chase for it.
Yeah.
Now, if you are the first type that chase for it, and now you realize that you are struggling, you want to retreat, you don't want to keep chasing, then yes, what Alex mentioned, that to look less of yourself is important. But I want to highlight the second group that subconsciously has this Messiah complex developed out of their responsibilities, And the key thing about us in this group is that we always, whether you like it or not in your workplace or anywhere, they will always say, this is your role, this is your responsibility, you have to solve it. And we will always look at that phrase, that statement as I have to solve it.
Okay.
In a sense, I have to find the ability to rectify the issue. When end of the day, actually the ultimate goal is not for me to rectify it, it's for me to find person to help rectify it as well.
I totally agree. That's why I think in the end of the day, everyone is just, not all of us, but some of us will realize that life is more than just being the top of my job. When you realize you have this kind of emotional, spiritual, or mental problem or complexes that you have, where do you turn to? What I see is that in the end of the day, they just feel like, oh, this is all meaningless because I'm not taking all this lightly. I'm just saying, in the end of the day, they just feel like, oh, this is it. I'm looking for something else more. I still have this problem. The better I am, the worse is that problem. Yeah, the worse is the problem. The problem gets worse. And I think we're not here to give any advice or solution. We're just talking because I think it's good that we have this kind of conversation. Character development is not as easy as you think that you can read 2 books and all that. I think that's why we think this conversation is important. We're talking to each other. We are talking to, I don't know, whoever you're listening to, and we hope this kind of discussion will spark some reflection. If you find it interesting or you find it relevant.
If not interesting, also tell us.
That's why this podcast is called We Accept Each Other. It's like you have different problems. Yes, I don't agree with whatever it is, but
different personalities.
The fundamental message is that, yeah, we're all different people. Doesn't mean that we cannot be acceptance of each other. I'm not saying that we accept what you do or we condone it, but we're not saying that we condemn it, but we are here to encourage and we want to talk it out because we value the relationship. The objective is this, right?
All right. When he was sharing the wrap up, I suddenly thought of Spider-Man.
The greater thing or greater?
No. With great power comes great responsibility. What greater thing than greater?
waiting.
No, but not that phrase in particular. Actually, the whole story of Spider-Man, where
multi-universe.
he started just as a young guy. Then, as he had more responsibilities, I'm not talking about power, more responsibilities. Then he started to be more heroic in a sense and becoming less and less
humanly
approachable. Less and less without a community. And I think that is what sometimes happens in churches or in organizations where as you are being appreciated for your capabilities and abilities, then you are placed in higher authority, and you tend to feel that you will be more lonely at the top, and you are afraid that one day you fail, then the whole structure or everyone that look up to you will collapse and stuff like that. And I just want to wrap this with a very simple encouragement that you need not think that way, because end of the day, even if you're at the top, you're still a human, and no one is perfect and no one is free from weaknesses and mistakes. And it will be important to deal with this complex as you have a group of people, a group of friends that you can talk about it together, that you can portray your weakness and be real. And the realer you are in this kind of avenue, the lesser you will be affected by this complex, if you ask me.
Okay. Good. I think that's all for this session. We accept each other.
Cheers. Oh.
Cheers. Okay, let's cheers.
Up to you. He's got nothing left.
A bit left.
1, 2, 3. We
Accept each other. Thank you. See you next time.
Bye.